Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Pastor Siri. I'm a Lutheran pastor and a spiritual seeker. And today I want to talk about a really important question that has been brought up online for probably many years. Does humanity actually need religion? Take a listen. So I am online on various sites to look at memes and funny videos, and inevitably there's also postings of some of the worst aspects of religion. And if you're familiar at all, if you look online at all, you're going to see that there's plenty of stuff to criticize. There's horrible behavior by religious leaders in terms of predatory behavior, sexual predatory behavior, as well as taking money and smuggling money and just in general trying to fleece people and caring more about power and control. And oftentimes I hear this criticism that's just like, religion is the problem. Humanity doesn't need religion. All religion is a cult. We need to just get rid of it all. And I've thought about that because obviously I have my own personal feelings about that, but I wanted to actually write down and look at this issue in a serious way. Because oftentimes the criticisms that people will have are legitimate, especially when it's coming to, we're starting to see some of the very toxic aspects of parts of religion. And I say parts of religion because I believe that every single religion in any form, every religion, major religion and spirituality that exists could potentially have a toxic version of it. But I also do believe that there are healthy versions because I've seen that, I've lived it, I've experienced it deeply. But I don't want us to ignore this question and issue about religion. So many of the criticisms that do come from people are that Christianity and other religions are anti-intellectual, and they can be because there are pastors and people out there who do not want people to be educated. They do not want you to ask too many questions in church. Again, this is a toxic trait of certain religion to use control of thoughts and behaviors so that all the information you get is coming from their hierarchical structure. That is toxic. That is not healthy. Oftentimes there's this oversimplification of belief as well that can happen. For example, people will make fun of Christians or other theists saying that, oh, these idiots just believe in a sky daddy, an invisible man who grants them boons. And you're oversimplifying and making things sound stupid. And really, anything can sound stupid when you oversimplify it. In fact, unfortunately, a lot of Christians have been taught an overly simplified version of Christianity. I've heard it. There's what Jesus believed and the way he lived in this world and the way he behaved and the things that he taught to his disciples. And then there is what the church teaches. And oftentimes there have been theologies that have been crafted over time in a specific time of place that people have oversimplified into very black and white ways of seeing the world in very immature understandings. And instead of religion invoking and opening up the best aspects of them as humans in connection with each other and the world, often the religion just sort of confirms their own ego. It becomes very ego-based. And so it is exclusionary. It is anti-intellectual. It is, I'm better than you because I have the right faith. And unfortunately, a lot of people who aren't very smart or intellectual, who are immature in a lot of ways, are going to glom onto some very oversimplified versions of the faith that do not sound correct. But if you go back to some of the founders of the faith, the earliest people and what they were communicating about being human and about living in this world, there can be some absolutely beautiful things there that have been deeply misconstrued over time. Other criticisms of religion is that it is homophobic, that it is racist, that it is misogynist, and I can attest that definitely people can use religion to justify those opinions. but I've also seen how very faithful people have been able to read the Bible and acknowledge things in there that aren't good, but also see the radical stuff that is in there that was definitely challenging people not to be racist and misogynistic in the time. Jesus himself being a great example, that you could argue and point out things in the Bible that are 100% misogynistic. Absolutely. But then you actually read about the way Jesus encountered women, and you do not see that at all. The Bible is filled with a lot of stuff in there. There is not one point of view. There is not one writer. There's not one anything. You have to sift through it with a lens. And so it's really easy to point out the worst aspects of religion and say how stupid they are without acknowledging and looking at the best aspects of religion. But let's keep going. Yes, religion can be exclusionary and tribal, meaning we've got it right, you're wrong, we're in, you're out. Again, this is very immature thinking. And additionally, oftentimes there are institutions that can be about money and control and power. But this is not the only thing that religion has ever been. If you think about what is loud and what is obnoxious and what is blaring neon in the world, it's usually not the wisest, most compassionate old souls, right? And yet there have always been there in every single religion. There have been the saints and the mystics who've always been there with beautiful visions and teachings about compassion and love and unity and harmony and peace and justice, who have stood up for what is right and done what is right over and over and over again. And yet, even today, some of the loudest, dumbest, most obnoxious voices are the ones that get attention. And because they don't know what they don't know, and their simplistic understanding, they think they know it all, those voices can be loud and people glom onto that. And so I definitely can see how people might look at religion and the loud, toxic, unhealthy, simplistic, immature voices out there are definitely getting a lot of airtime and they're yelling really loud. And I 100% would criticize the faith that they are teaching as well. So now that I've said that, is it possible for societies to do well without religion? Well, yes. There are secular societies like Scandinavia and the Netherlands and Australia and places that do not really have church attendance very much. They've become much more secular. They don't really have this group belief in God, and they're doing wonderful. In fact, in 10 categories of what makes for a just and thriving society, like what are the crime rates, poverty, homelessness, education, democracy, women's health, these secular societies are doing better than super religious societies by far. It's no contest. And so oftentimes there's this belief by religious people that religion makes you better, that we just need God in the schools and we just need everybody to be praying, when in reality, if you actually look at the numbers of societies and moments in which there is peace and there is thriving, those assertions aren't true. So yes, religion has caused a lot of problems in the world. And it's true, we want to acknowledge that. We want to be honest about the fact that just because you're religious does not necessarily mean that your society is going to be just, is going to be peaceful, and is going to be equitable. So do we need religion to care about each other? No. Do we need religion in order to be peaceful and just as a society? No, we don't. I know many amazing people who do not believe in God, and they are amazing, compassionate people who want to help and make the world a better place. And that comes from their good heart within them, which we all have hiding in there, every single one of us. But I do want to just shift directions here, because I do want to say something a little bit more about religion, in that the founder of every religion, as I mentioned, is somebody who, through their connection with the divine, through their connection with the sacred, through the inspirations that they had, the revelations that they had, always came back to love and compassion and serving other people. If you water down the tenets of every major religion, you can have something as simple as love God, love your neighbor, and love yourself. That is what I believe was the core of what Jesus was trying to teach his followers, and everything else was just commentary on that fact. And I also want to acknowledge the fact that there have been mystics and saints for thousands of years and still today who do have profound experiences of something more. They have visions, they have dreams that are life-changing and life-altering. This happens all the time. It's just not always maybe the loudest thing that's out there, and people will often write them off as kooks. But these can be very grounded, stable, loving, amazing people who have had experiences of the beyond. In fact, a lot more people than you think, a greater percentage than you think, have purported to have some sort of experience that they cannot explain that has left them with a feeling of peace, with a feeling of unity with humanity, with a feeling of just bigness. This is what spirituality is. Spirituality is when humans have an understanding and a direct experience that there is something more. And what you call that more could be as diverse as the amount of people that are on the planet. And yet when those people come together and they start to form rituals and traditions together, that coalesces into religion. And it's probably always going to happen to some degree that people will come together in their search for more and support of each other to do more. It's also true that religions have done unbelievable things together that couldn't have been done alone. And that's the power of structure and institution. Religions have been building orphanages and schools and hospitals and feeding the poor and coming to aid around the world with no strings attached. That is the best version of all. The most high, responsible, mature version of Christianity is just wanting to help with no strings attached. And there's so much that I know my Lutheran body has done in that regard. Some of the things that I'm really proud of about, again, my Lutheran background, is we have ELCA World Hunger. ELCA World Hunger will go to the places that most need help around the world. And they don't just feed people, but they actually try to teach people and show people and cultivate more sustainable ways of living so that people can lift themselves out of poverty. And again, there's no strings attached. They don't go only to Christian communities, nor do they try to convert you. They simply do this because there is a need. And the people who work at ELCA World Hunger, they believe firmly in their heart that this is what their faith compels them to do. ELCA, Lutheran Disaster Relief, is another one that I love. Many times when there's a hurricane or something going on in the world, a natural disaster, we hear about the Red Cross and other things that come. But Lutheran Disaster Relief often comes before, right away, because they have networks all across the globe. And they usually stay after all the cameras have left. And they're there to, again, try to reestablish and get people back on their feet for the long term. Another one that I love used to be called Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services, but it's now called Global Refuge. And this, again, is Lutherans who've been around for decades advocating on behalf of immigrants and refugees, finding them homes, being there to welcome them, giving them apartments, walking with immigrants and refugees, and they've been doing this for literally decades. I also want to acknowledge that there are a lot of religious leaders who we can see as examples of mature faith. One in particular is the friendship that was between the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Here is someone coming, the head of the Buddhist faith, as well as someone who is a prominent member of one of the Christian denominations. And they were best friends. And this happens a lot with interfaith work and with peace and harmony talks, where there are people who can love and embrace their own religion, but value and completely honor their other people's religions without needing to convert them or feel as if that person has the wrong faith. It's more like, hey, I really love spaghetti and you love Chinese food, and I see that you love Chinese food and it's nourishing you, and you can see that I love my spaghetti Italian food and it's nourishing me. Cool. Maybe we'll sample each other's food, but we're not going to tell somebody that the food that they're eating is vehemently wrong, right? I also want to bring up, I've known many amazing nuns who are, sometimes nuns get a bad rap as being like very strict with like the ruler to hit you if you're doing something wrong. And I'm not saying those nuns do not exist. They have, I'm sure. However, there have been many that have been the leading edge of justice work, of activist work, nuns who have been arrested for anti-war protests and on behalf of women and children and all sorts of amazing causes. And finally, of course, I have to bring up Martin Luther King Jr., who himself was a huge advocate for nonviolent resistance. A lot of people who advocated for nonviolent resistance around the world have also been religious people. And in this picture here, you can see religious people who their faith compelled them to want to put themselves in harm's way in order to advocate and show another way towards racial justice and reparation. All this to say, religion is not going to go away, but it does need to grow up and wake up. I do think that right now, around the globe, we're waking up to a lot of unhealthy versions of X, Y, and Z. Government, religion, marriage, schools, healthcare. There's so many things that we're waking up and going, you know what? I don't think this is right. Differentiating between toxic and unhealthy religion and healthy religion is really, really helpful. And I think for us, instead of to just throw away the whole thing and just say all religion is terrible, all religion is cultish, all religion is bad, it is time for those of us who are religious to step up and allow that religion to truly transform us as we embody the values of the person that we say founded our faith. And we can also look to the most mature examples in any faith of those who are doing wonderful, wonderful work and are wonderful examples of what it means to be a human being, both inside the faith and outside of the faith. Because if we are passionate about interfaith dialogue, it might be good for us to acknowledge those who have no faith and be in conversation with them as well, and to see the beautiful many, many examples of deeply moral and helpful behavior by both those who are religious and who are non-religious. Because it's not actually about religion at the end of the day. It is about the movement of humanity towards that which is healthy, that which makes us happy, that in which all living things, in humans, creatures, the water, the earth, all living things can live in harmony in a sustainable way. That's the goal. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.